So in the last session, we have discussed about setting up environment, Selenium environment, and we have seen a small script. We have written a small first Selenium script and saw how we can automate a small test case using Selenium WebDriver, right? And yeah, in this session, we'll discuss about Selenium locators. Selenium locators. So we'll see basic locators today. And in the coming sessions, we'll see the advanced ones. So what are the locators? So what are the locators in Selenium? So these are the locators in Selenium. So even before that, let's understand how a web page will be developed. So say for example, let me open some website. So if I have some google.com, right? So if I right click somewhere on the web page and say view page source, right? So just click on this view page source. So you'll see a code right here. So this is what it is driving this web page. So whatever you are seeing here as an user interface, so this is driven by the code. So someone might have written this code and this code has been rendered by the browser and has been shown like this, right? So when we do google.com, so this is the page we get from the as a response from the server, and the browser is rendering this script, right? And this is what we see it, right? So we don't need to understand whole lot of this page source, how it is developed and all, but we need to know basics of it. We need to know just basics of it. So we'll see that. Say for example, let me open a website. So I do have a login form here, right? So this is a small login form, and you can see it has username and password and a login button, right? So right click anywhere on this web page. Right click anywhere on this web page and do inspect. So if you wanted to find, so each one is one element here, right? So we call it as this is a web page, right? And each element, each one here is a web element. So this is input field, right? So you can provide some input here. You can provide some password here, and this is a button. So this is one field, which is called input field, right? Where we can provide the input. Password, we can provide the password. This is a button, login button. So these are all like different actions, right? So this is just a tag here, right? So just a heading and some text here, right? Say for example, let me show you some other website. So you see another website here, and you see lot whole images here and some links. Again, a text box. So these are the links, a logo, right? So these are all like coming from some code, right? So let me show you. Right click anywhere on the website, on the web page, and just do inspect. So you see something called something has been opened here, right? So this is what we call it as dev tools. And you in the dev tools, so you can actually have it in the downside of your window as well. This we call it as dock. So you can place it anywhere at any position on your web page. So let me put it on the bottom for now. So you can see here, this is HTML, right? So the web pages are driven by the language called a scripting language called HTML. So, and how does a HTML file looks like, right? So this is how it looks like. So a HTML file looks like this. So the beginning tag and an ending tag. So we call this as tags. And in between whatever is written, right? So that will be rendered as a code for that web page, right? And you can see here, this web page also, it starts with HTML tag and it will end with HTML tag. And in between, we'll have many other tags, right? So each tag is its own functionality, what it has to be done. Say for example, heading, header, and body. So whatever we wanted to include in the web page, we can put it in the body. But each tag has its own end tag as well. So HTML is the starting tag, and ending tag we need to enclose it like this. So forward slash followed by the same tag name, right, in the Angular braces. So this is what we mean by a tag, and this is how we write an HTML code, right? So when we write an HTML script here, so this is how a web page will be rendered and will be shown on the page, right? Now let us understand other tags and other statements. For example, if I wanted to, you know about this input field, first input field called username. So how do we do that? So when we do inspect, right click on the any input field or any field. So these fields or any elements, we call those as web elements. So the entire page is called web page, and each element here, whatever you see, it could be input field, button, checkbox, radio button, drop down, web table, anything. All these are called as web elements on the web page. Now right click on any element and just do inspect. So a doc will be opened. So this is called as dev tools. So each browser will have this, any browser will have this dev tools. You can see elements, console, sources, network, performance, memory, and so on, right? So elements is what we'll concentrate on. So you can see when we see elements, so it is giving information of each element, each web element on the web page. See, when I am hovering over each line, so it is highlighting something in on the web page. So whatever is actually driving this, these actions, this highlight part, so is written by this code. So whenever I hover on each line, so the corresponding component is getting highlighted. See, so because of this line, that component might have been displayed there, like that. Now let's take one part here, one element, and understand how HTML is written. So say for example, we highlighted username here, right? So let's take this. Let me copy it. So with this code, so the username field has been developed, right? So what does this text means? So first thing, anything if you wanted to include in HTML language, so you will be including it in an Angular basis. Then whatever comes first after this Angular base, we call that as a tag. We call this as a tag. So here HTML is one tag. Input is another tag, right? After this tag, so whatever you see here, like class equal to something, right? And placeholder equal to some value in double quotes, type equal to text in double quotes, data text equal to username, and so on, right? So whatever you see as the first key, let's call this as maybe key value pairs. So because each key has its own value, right? So this is what we call it as attribute, an attribute and its corresponding attribute value. So always value is enclosed in double quotes. An attribute is equal to attribute value in double quotes, right? So each attribute represents something about that web element. So you can see here, placeholder equal to username, type equal to text. It says something about that web element, right? So this is all the information about that web element. So when you provide all this information and include that in Angular basis, then put it in the HTML tags, right? So this we call it as a script, and with this you get to see this username. So underline and a username, right? So this field has been displayed by writing this code. So with this, when you write this code, right? So you get a field called username. So you can see input. When we say input tag, so it means that it's an input field. We can enter some text into it, right? So it could have some attribute called class. So it could have some class name, right? And then what's the type of it? So it accepts text. What's the placeholder? So placeholder is something which is already displayed. So if placeholder is removed, you will not see this something called username here, right? This is placeholder. Even though you see that it's not actually present, it's just a whole placeholder. It is just giving you a hint that you need to enter a username. It's not actual text displayed there, right? So I can't copy this, right? It's just a placeholder and it's a type text. So you can see it could even have some ID. ID is something called something as a web page developer just for uniquely identifying that element. Name is again another attribute for that web element, for a web element. So this could be anything given by the developers who have written this script for that web page, right? Auto capitalize none. All these are attributes of that web element. And whatever is followed in double quotes is the value of the attribute. And entire script will be enclosed. Entire this web element information will be enclosed in Angular braces, right? So this we call it as a script, and this total whichever is highlighted here is just written for username. Same is the case for other web elements as well. Say for example, I hover over on the password. So password will have something else, right? The script of password will be something else, whatever is highlighted here, right? And go to login button. Just click on this inspect button. You see something called inspect, right? So just click on this, single click, and then hover over on any web element. You see the corresponding code in the doc here, dev tool here, right? So this is what it is all about, the copy outer HTML. And when I put it here, this is the code written for the login button, right? So it is also like it says input and type equal to submit button, and it has its own class name, right? Some data attached. They might have written something called some attribute, and ID, name, and value. Value is whatever label you see on the button. That's called value, right? So with this script, we are able to see the button, login button, right? So when we say type equal to submit, it understands that it is a button, and it provides the value as login with this script. That's how this login button has been displayed here, right? So in the same way, any other web element as well. So each web element has its own corresponding code. In fact, this code is what it is driving this web element. So with this code or this script, you see this web elements on the web page, right? So this is HTML, a high level understanding of HTML. So in HTML, so everything will be tags, right? So everything will be enclosed in Angular basis. So it could have some header. Header is at the beginning, we will have some heading, right? So that will be the header. And you could have body. Like this, right? So each tag will have its own corresponding close tag as well, end tag, or you can say end tag. So a forward slash followed by the tag name, right? In Angular basis. And web elements. So this is the script. So for each web element, there will be some script. So when you write the script, you will see that web element on the web page. So this is the high level understanding of HTML. And not only this, we do have something called CSS, cascading style sheet. And HTML stands for, HTML is a scripting language. It stands for hypertext markup language. we do have something called CSS as well, cascading style sheet. So that can be used for having different fonts, design, alignments, all these kind of stuff can be done using CSS. So along with HTML, we do have something called CSS, which actually does all those styling stuff, like having different alignments, fonts, designs, and all. And we do have something called JavaScript as well. So using JavaScript, a logic will be written. Say, for example, this web page, right? So what should happen if I click on this register? It has to take me to some other page, right? So this logic will be written using the script called JavaScript. See, these are all links. When I click on some link, it has to take me to a different web page. And if I click on this image, and if I do this drop down, so it is showing me some options like this. So all these are driven by the JavaScript. So these three languages, so using these three, right, these three scripting languages, these are called as scripting languages. So using these three scripting languages, a web page will be developed. So, and JavaScript, again, there will be some frameworks for the JavaScript, right? Like React.js, Angular, JS, JS in the sense JavaScript, like that. So using those frameworks also, a web page will be developed. But the basic thing which we need to know is, actually, we don't even need to know it. The one who develops a web page, right? So needs to know HTML and CSS and JavaScript as well. These are at least the basic scripting languages one needs to learn to develop a web page. But for us, we don't need to develop anything. We will just use the web pages which are already developed to automate the elements. Just to understand automation, right? So we wanted to automate. So that's our end goal, right? So we'll just use the web pages to automate whatever is already present as a web elements. We will just interact with those elements which are already developed, right? So this is just an understanding for you, the high level understanding what a web page is and how it is developed at the backend. So this is what, these are called scripting languages, and these scripting languages are actually used to develop a web page. Now, let's come back to our locators. So these are called as, this is the basic understanding. Now, let's talk about the locators. So we do have multiple locators. So what are locators in Selenium? So we discussed this. When I wanted to interact with any web element, right? How do we automate the things? We wanted to mimic the manual actions. So how do we do that? Say, for example, I want to enter something into this text box. So first we need to place the cursor there and, just do a left click on it. Then we can enter some text here, right? So all this has to be automated, right? So for that, what we need to find, first we need to navigate to this URL. And then what we need to do, we need to find this web element called input field or text field, right? So this is searching a button again. So all this we need to identify. So for that, we need the locators. So we need to locate them first, right? Once we locate them, then we can perform the corresponding action on the web element based on the what type of web element it is. Say, for example, this is input field. I can provide some text. This is a button. I can't provide some text into it. I can only click on it. Like that, each web element. So once it is located in the sense, it is once it has to be identified where it is there on the web page using the WebDriver. We need to identify that. We need to find the address of that web element, right? So each web element, if you observe using this script, so it can be identified with its own address, right? So address in the sense, like we will be using these tags. You can use these attributes. So all this combination we will be using to uniquely identify this web element. So once we identify this element or locate this web element on the web page, so meaning we got that address of that web element on the web page. So we identified or we located the web element now, then what we do, we use that address or locator, and then we'll perform some action on that web element. So this is all what it is about in automation, right? So automating is all about locating the web elements and then performing a corresponding action on the web element or interacting with the web element, right? So this is what we do. So two steps, right? What are the two steps? Automation works on two steps. These are the very important two steps: locating and performing action. Locating web element and performing action on the web element. And then validating the stuff, and that all comes under our logic. That so that whatever we wanted to do, how we wanted to validate, and how we wanted to use that end result, right? So getting that result of test case passed and failed, putting them in a test report, right? Putting them into some file. All this is our own custom logic. But there are main two steps when we are automating, right? We need to locate the web element and perform an action on the web element. Why do we need to locate the web element? We wanted to perform some action or interact with that web element. So that's called action or performing action on the web element, right? So these two steps are very important in automation. Now, for performing any action, again, it depends on locating the web element. Locating the web element is identifying the address of the web element on the web page. And how do we do that? We do have locators. Selenium has provided locators for that. So using those locators, we can identify the web elements. So ID is one element. Sorry, ID is one locator. Name, link text, partial link text, tag name, class name. All these are the basic locators. And we do have some advanced locators like CSS Selector, XPath, which we will discuss in the coming sessions. So in this session, we will discuss about these locators, the highlighted ones, right? So let's jump on to an example. So let's take this example itself. Username, right? So when I highlight this username, you can even have this dock onto your right as well. So you just need to click on this three dots, three vertical dots, and you see something called dock side, right? So you have an option to place it anywhere on your screen. So I just placed it on the bottom, but I can take it to my right side of my screen as well. See, it is on the right side. Let it be on the right side so that uh, it is visible, right? So, and also let me increase the font. So it is not increasing this font. Is this visible? This DevTools window? Okay, then no problem. So when you click on this arrow, how did I open this? So this DevTools, right click on the web element, whatever you wanted to find the address for. So I'll call that as a location or locator, right? So inspect, do inspect, click on inspect. So when you do inspect on the web element, the corresponding code or script which is driving that. So which is driving that web element will be selected here, right? So you can see all the other tags as well. So div is one tag, input, form is another tag, right? So these are all one hierarchy, one structure followed by HTML, right? So in HTML, whoever is writing this script, they will follow some hierarchy and they might have written this code, right? So whatever is highlighted here is corresponding to the web element which we selected, right? So this is the corresponding script of it. Now, if you observe here, so it has input tag. It has some attribute called class, right? So whatever comes after the Angular braces, we call it as a tag. And after that, we do have this attributes, class equal to some class value, right? Attribute and a corresponding attribute value, placeholder, data type, ID, name, like this, right? So we do have multiple attributes here. and value is also there, but there is no value for it. So value is an attribute and there is no attribute value for it, right? So because it's an empty, right? It's an input field, text field, which is empty. So there is no value for it. And the highlighted part, right? So let me again show you. Right click, inspect this web element, and this part will be highlighted. Now, using these attributes and tags, we need to locate this web element. We need to identify this web element in order to perform some action. So how do we locate it? So we can use any of these attributes, right? So first let's use name. Say for example, it has name. See, it has name attribute, right? Name is username. So we will be using this value. We'll be using this attribute as well as attribute value. So, and then we'll locate this first web element, right? So let's start writing the code. I'll create a new package. I'll just call it as day22, and then we'll create a new class. We'll call it as basic locators. So the first part, we wanted to launch the browser, right? So how do we do that? We already learned this in the last session, right? WebDriver driver equal to new Chrome driver when we wanted to launch the Chrome browser. So with this single line, we can launch the Google Chrome browser, right? And you can hover on this and then you can get the definition of it. So if you do not get these suggestions, right? See, you are not getting import from the org.openqa.selenium and all, right? So you are not getting this suggestion. So in that case, what you can do is you can just hover on this and then there is a shortcut, Ctrl Shift O. See, when I do Ctrl Shift O, I got this import statement. So when you hover on this error, and if you do not get the fixes available suggested by ID, you can use the shortcut. Let me put it here. Control plus Shift plus O is a shortcut. Shortcut for import statement. All right. So now we launch the browser. All right. Now we wanted to navigate to a particular URL. So how do we do that? Driver.get, and this also we have seen in the last session. Driver.get and whatever URL we wanted to navigate to. I wanted to navigate to this URL. So I'll just provide that in the get method. So with this, Chrome browser will be launched and then it will be navigated to this particular URL. All right. Now observe. So we wanted to see demo on name attribute. Let's actually try the name attribute first. So here we do have the locators, right? So we will see all one by one. First, I'll be taking name here. So using name attribute, how do we identify the username? So observe now. So what we do as a first step, driver dot, there's a method called findElement. So findElement is a method in WebDriver. So findElement is a method in a WebDriver which actually finds the web element by the locator you specify it to it as a parameter. So findElement is a method which actually identifies the element on the web page, and it takes a parameter called by. So using that parameter, it identifies the web element on the web page. So by dot name, I'll say by dot name. So by is another class in WebDriver in Selenium. So and its methods are all static. So this is the reason we are using class name dot method name. So if you remember, static methods can be invoked using the class name. You don't need to create the object for it, right? So that is what it is. And by dot name, this method, it will take a string as the parameter. So what is the string? Name of the or attribute value. So the attribute value of the web element. So that's all. So let's go back and find the attribute value for the name. So this is the name attribute, right? You can clearly see this is the name attribute. And then we do have with the same name, we do have a method called name, right? By.name. So by.name takes a parameter. So this has to be the attribute value of name of the web element. So what's here, you can find the attribute name here for the web element called username. And what's the value for it? So you can just select it here like this. You can just double click on it. It will be highlighted, or you can just select it as well. This username will be selected, and then you can just put it here as a value or a parameter to this name method, right? By is a class, and name, all the methods which are defined in this by class are static. So you can verify that. Just hold your control key and then do a click on this name method. So it opens the definition or the declaration of that particular method. You can see this is a by class, by dot class, right? So you can see the name, it's a static method. It takes string as a parameter, right? So what did we do here? findElement is a method of WebDriver. So we use that findElement, and findElement actually takes, see, by object. It actually is taking by object, right? By is a class. And so what did we do? By dot name is what we invoked. See, this name method is actually returning by object. And findElement is expecting by parameter. So we are using by dot name. So by is a class and it has static methods. So we can actually call the static methods by class name. So this is the reason we are using by dot name. And name method is actually expecting a string. So the string name is the value of the name attribute to search for. You can see the description here for the name attribute. So name attribute to search for, right? So name is a method which is actually expecting the name attribute value to search for. So this is what the name for that particular web element is. And we have provided that, right? Now, see, findElement. What this findElement method is returning? It is returning something called web element, right? So web element is another interface. So it is returning web element. So let's capture that into a web element object. I'll just say this as my username. So web element is another interface in Selenium, right? So it is coming from org.openqa.selenium package. So just click on this import web element. So it will add the import statement for that web element, right? All right. Now, yeah, if you see, what did we do? What does this statement represent? So first we use WebDriver instance, and then we use the findElement method, which actually takes a parameter of by object, right? So by object, how do we get the by object? We can use one of the methods in the by class, defined in by class, which are all static. So then we used by.name as we wanted to actually identify the element using name attribute. So we just provided the name attribute value by looking at here. From the dev tools, we got to know the address or location of this web element. And within that, we found the attribute name, and the name attribute value we have provided here. Right? With this, we constructed this. We found the element. We located the element, right? And this findElement method was returning web element. So we just wanted to, so this whole thing is returning something which is called web element. Web element is another interface, right? So we wanted to capture that into some reference variable of this web element interface. So we capture that into some reference variable. Now we can use this reference variable to perform some action. So we already located the web element, right? Located web element. Next step will be performing some action on it. So what action we can take on an input field or a text field? We can enter some text into it, right? We can enter some text into it. So how do we enter some text into the user input or input username or the input field, input text field, right? So how do we enter this web element username, right? So we located this. So this entire part is represented by username now, right? This variable username dot, you do have some options. All these are related to the actions we can perform on the web element. So what we wanted to do, it's a text field. We wanted to pass some text. So for that, there's a method called sendKeys. SendKeys accept char sequence as the parameter, right? Char sequence is a string again. So we can pass some string here. So the accepted usernames are provided here. I'll take one of them. That's it. So use the web element. We identified or we located the web element here using this piece of statement. This one statement, we identified the web element and we just had that held in some web element interface reference variable. And this reference variable we are using and performing some action, that is passing some value. As that is a text field, we are using a method called sendKeys and we are passing some value to it. That's it. So when we run this program, a Chrome browser will be launched. So it has to navigate to this URL and the username has to be identified or located on the web page. And then some text has to be passed to that web element. So let's verify that. Run as Java application. Yeah, you can see here, it's been navigated to that URL and you can also see an input has been provided to this username field, right? All right, now can we do like this? So I'll just have this. Have this statement and then dot sendKeys. I'll have it the same username provided here. So this is equivalent of this 2 lines. So instead of 2 lines, you can have it in a single statement or single line. So can we do like this? Yes, we can do it, right? So this is just replacement. So if you observe this username, what it represents, it is representing this complete driver.findElement, right? So this part, we are just using it in the, we stored it in the reference variable called username. So instead of that, we can have it directly, that itself. Whatever we are storing, whatever we are representing, whatever this username is representing, we can have it like this, right? And then followed by sendKeys. Right? Anyway, findElement is actually representing or returning as the element, location of the web element. Till this part, we can write it like that, as is, instead of the username. Then dot sendKeys, on that dot sendKeys. So this is just the replacement of this statement. If you observe this statement closely, so we just replaced the username with this statement. See, as we said, username equal to this part. So we can just replace this username with this part. And the remaining will be same, dot sendKeys, and then passing the some text to it. Right? So can we do like this? Let's verify. Yeah, you can see we got the same output, right? So even this is valid. We don't need to actually store this in a reference variable and again use the reference variable to perform the action. So you can directly use the identified element and perform the action on the web element itself, on that web element itself directly, right? So both are correct, but this can be done within a single step, in a single line of code, right? So now let us understand, let's locate the password field. So I wanted to pass some password here, right? So how do we do that? Again, you just need to right click on the web element, password and do inspect. So the corresponding script will be highlighted in the dev tools, right? So you can see the attributes, the corresponding attributes of the web element password here. So it says type equal to password. So this is the reason when you type in some text in the password field, you see them as the asterisks or dots, black dots, right? So yeah, you can see here ID equal to password, name, right? So this time we'll use ID. This time we'll use the attribute ID. So again, how do we find this? Find the password, driver dot find element will be the method which we'll use. Find element by dot. This time we are going to use the method called ID, by dot ID, and pass the ID value. ID value is password here. So with this, a password web element will be located on the web page. Yeah, we can use any other attributes, but we wanted to understand this one by one, right? So I'm going through with this. We are going through each locator. It has to have the corresponding method, right? So the attribute has to, so it has its own corresponding method here. So name, we do have it. So name method. So we can use the name attribute value. ID, we are using ID value like that. So it has to have the method for that. Method in the by class, right? So this is how we identified the password. Now, do we need to capture this? So let's capture this for one more element. See, find element is returning web element, right? Again, just say element, web element, password. I'll show it in some reference variable, password dot send keys is a method. So this is a input field, text field, so we can pass the password. So what's the password? Let's pass the password here. All right, so we did pass the password as well, right? So again, like we can do this in this two step, or we can do it in a single step as well. Let me show you. Yeah, you can see it's a password, so it's a password field, right? So you will not see its value. So you will see it and it will be hidden. You will see dots here only, right? All right. Now we automated like username. We provided username and password, right? Now we wanted to click on the login button. So even this statement can be replaced with a single step. Then keys the password here. This is using ID, right? All right. So we identified username, we pass some value to it. We identified password and perform some action, that is provided some value to the password field. All right. Now I wanted to click on the login button. So how do you do that? Again, click on this, take this arrow and just hover on the web element, whatever you wanted to look the script for. I wanted the script for this login button. So this part has been highlighted here, right? And you can see its own attributes here. Again, you can, the easiest ones are ID and name, right? So you can always look for ID and name. If they are there, right, we can just directly use them. Again, you need to be careful when you are selecting these attributes because the same name or same ID could be there hidden for other elements on the web page as well. So you need to look for an attribute which uniquely identifies the web element, right? Now let's use this ID login button and directly writing the single statement find element by dot ID. What's the ID? ID is login button here. So it's always better you highlight it, you double click on this value and then select the value from this DevTools itself. Instead of you writing it manually, instead of typing manually, so we might make some mistake, right? So it's always a good practice to highlight or select it from the DevTools, this attribute value like this. You can just do a double click like this. It will be highlighted and then you can copy those value, that value here. All right. So this is the web element. So what did it identify or located? It identified the login button. So till now, what did we do? As uh, it was a text field, we use the send keys method and pass the text to those fields. Now it's a button. So we can't perform the send keys, right? So we can't perform the send keys action. We can't do the send, we can't use the send keys method. Now we need to use the some other method. So what that method is? Dot click. We need to click on the button. It's a button, we wanted to click on it. So there is a method called click. We can use this click method to click on the button. So this will return the web element. So web element has a method called click. So we're just using that method called click, which clicks on the login button. All right, now let's execute this. Yeah, it logs in and you can see after login, there are some products displayed, right? So we automated this website, right? So the login form or the login functionality of this URL or this website has been automated, right? And I'm not taking this into a separate web element, right? So because I wanted to perform only single action, I wanted to use this web element only once. So I can directly use this instead of having that stored in a reference variable. Say, for example, if you wanted to interact with the same element multiple times, then it's always good practice to have it stored in a web element like this, web element reference variable like this, like how we did it for username and password in 2 lines, right? So you can have that stored in the reference variable, that web element, and you can use this directly to perform multiple actions on the same element. But if you know that you're going to perform only single action, then this is recommended. So you don't need to have it in the reference variable. You can directly find the web element and you don't need to have it stored in any web element reference variable. You can directly perform the corresponding action on the web element like this. If you think that you are going to perform only single action on the web element, right? All right. So we automated this page now. So is that clear? All right. Here you can see, these are tags, right? Name, ID, class, all these are attributes. If you take name equal to login button, say for example, login button, right? Here name is an attribute and login button here is an attribute value. Just for your information, I just place this description here. Okay. All right. Now, what did we learn? This find element method, right? So find element method always returns a web element. So when we say driver dot find element, our findElement method. So we started the locators. Let me put it somewhere here. This actually returns the web element object. All right. So let's jump on to the other locators, linkText and partialLinkText. So for that, let's use another URL. So here, for example, I navigate to this URL and I wanted to click on any links. So these are all links, right? So links are, when we click on it, it will navigate to a different page. It will take us to a different web page, right? So that is what we call it as a links, right? So you click on anything here, so it is taking us to a different web page, right? So these are all we call it as links. So now let's inspect this web elements. So let's say, for example, I wanted to click on this register here in this web page, right? So first what we need to do, we need to navigate to this URL, right? So let's navigate to that URL. For now, I'll just comment out this. Now we wanted to understand linkText and partialLinkText. So these are all links. So how do you identify them? I wanted to click on this register. So just right click on it and do inspect. So you see something got highlighted here, right? Again. And if you observe, the tag of it is A. A represents for anchor. So this is an anchor tag. And href is representing the address where it is stored, like where it needs to be taken to. So when you click on that, where you need to redirect it to is what it is showing it as its value. And h reference here represents the hyperlink reference. So this we call it as a hyperlink actually. So that hyperlink reference is what it is stored as a value of it, right? A here represents the anchor tag. So any link here, hyperlink, will actually have the tag as anchor tag. A, right? Like how we saw it for the text field, it was input, right? So in the same way, like all the links, you will definitely see this anchor tag represented with a letter called lowercase a, right? So this is the tag. And then h reference is an attribute. Class is another attribute. And the register is the actual label or value of it, right? So the actual name of it. Name of the link, right? So this is what it is highlighted. Now, if you wanted to actually locate it with the linkText using the linkText method, so then we need to provide this value. So whatever is present within the anchor tag, right? So anchor tag, and then, so if you see, it is present in between the anchor tag, right? Anchor tag and the anchor tag end tag, end value, right? So A and then a closing tag, corresponding closing tag of anchor tag. So in between that, we have this value. So that is what we can see it as a label also here. And that is what we need to use it for the link text. So first, let's identify the element. Driver dot find element. By dot, I'm gonna use a method called link text here. Link text. And then what's the text we need to pass here? So this part. So we need to identify that's a link using this tag called A, anchor tag, and then a reference to it. Hyperlink reference will also be there. But we are not going to use that. We'll just identify that that's a link. And we need to get the link text of it. Link text is simple. Whatever is visible on the web page, right? Whatever label you see it here, right? So that's what it is. But you should not take it as is from the web page. You need to always go to this DevTools, find the corresponding script, and then you have to copy it like this from the anchor tag. So it's present as a value of the anchor tag here, right? So whenever it is placed in between these tags, right? So it's called a value of the label, or we can call it as a label. So why you should not copy it from the web pages. See, there's a difference here, right? It's in uppercase on the web page, but it's in a lower case here, right? So you always need to copy it from the DevTools only. So copy it and then place it here. Then it's a link text, right? So what do we do on the link? We hover on it and then we click on it, right? We click on it. So we need to perform an action called click. We'll perform an action called click. But before this, what we need to do? We have to navigate to this website. So we didn't do that. First, we need to do that. First, we need to navigate to this URL. So driver dot, how do we navigate? We use get method. Driver dot get. We navigate to the URL and then we are clicking on this register link, right? So linkText is clicking on the links, right? So, and how do we identify the link? By looking at the corresponding anchor tag and a value of it. Yeah, you can see. So it navigated to the URL, which we passed in the get method, and it was able to click on the register link, right? Successfully. All right. This is all about the link text. Now we'll see partial link text. What is partial link text? This is link text. So partial link text. So what does that mean? So say for example, you see multiple links here, right? So all these are links. So if you hover off that, so it will turn its color into blue, right? And then when you click on it, it will take you to some other web page. It will navigate, yeah, see, like this. Now I wanted to click on this digital downloads, right? So how do I find the element for it? Right click, inspect, and you can see it's a link. So it is highlighted, it's a link, right? So it will have the anchor tag A and a H reference, hyperlink reference. So where it has to navigate it to, right? And then our text. So this is all what we are interested in, because this will use it for the in the link text method or partial link text method. So this I'm copying, and now I'm gonna use it in the find element by dot. This time I'm gonna use partial link text. Partial link text, and will not pass the entire link here. So I'll just pass a part of it. I'll just pass digital here. That's all. So that is what we mean by partial. I'm only passing partial link here, not the complete link. It was digital downloads. I'm just passing digital here, right? So dot click, as it's a link, we are gonna click on it. So this is partial link text. So let's verify it. We need to comment this out first. We wanted to click on the digital downloads here. Instead of providing the complete link text, we are just providing the partial link. You can even provide the downloads as well. Yeah, it was able to click on the digital download. See, right? But there is a problem using partial link text. So say for example, there was something else like, say for example, we just give digital, it was digital downloads, and so we just provided it as digital, right? Digital download. Say for example, there might be some other link with digital, right? Say for example, some digital products like that, right? There are more than one matching, right? Then what happens? It would match any of these, right? So it will not return any error, but it will actually pick up the first one and then it will click on that. You might be thinking you wanted to click on the digital items, but it might be choosing digital downloads. So whatever comes first in the list, So whatever comes first on the web page, it identifies with the partial link text method. So it will just pick up that and then it will use it. So it's always recommended to use the link text to partial link text. So when you wanted to choose between link text and partial link text, so this is always preferred. So if you are sure that there is no other link, so in our case there is no other link. There was no other link which starts with digital, right? So which has the partial link text as digital. So it was successful. But in some cases this might not be the case. This might be actually matching with more than one web element. So in that case, you better go with the complete link text. So this is all about the link text and partial link text. Now, I'll just put there's a chance of matching more than one web element. Preferred, right? Now, let's understand tag name and class name. Is that clear? Link text and partial link text? All right, now let's go to tag name and class name. So mostly tag name and class name are used to find the group of elements, group of similar elements, right? Group of similar elements. So what do we mean by that? Say for example, I'll take class name first. Let's understand class name. Say for example, I wanted to get all these links. These are all hyperlinks, right? So I wanted to get all these links. So how do we get that? So right click on it, inspect. I wanted to get all of these links in one shot. So let me put this docs just below here and then hover on this. First, let's hover on this one, computers. So you can see all these are LI. LI represents for list. So this is actually these are all the list, right? So you can see 7 lists. And these are present under another tag called UL. UL is unordered list, right? So LI is a tag which represents the list. And if you expand this, right, you can see something called H reference computers, because computers is a hyperlink here. So it is represented with anchor tag, right? And it has so if you observe along with that, it has something called class, div class sublist toggle, right? All right. So just expand the next one, electronics. So even this has the div class sublist toggle. So it has anchor tag and its own hyperlink reference. That's fine. But just observe the below line, below the anchor tag. You will have something called div class equal to sublist toggle. So if you see, both have the same class, right? And if you go to the next one, apparel, even it has the same tag, div class equal to sublist toggle, right? So all this we can identify using this class, because class is representing, this div class is representing all of these elements, right? All of these links or elements, right? So in one go, we can identify all these elements using the class name, because all the elements have the same class name. All right. Now, so what did we understand till now? For find element, when we use this find element method, and when we pass an attribute, it returns what it returns. We actually pass the by object and it returns one web element, right? Now we are actually trying to match multiple web elements here, right? Multiple web elements, because the same class name is present for all the web elements, all of these web elements in this order, right? So in this case, when we pass, what do we pass? We might pass the by dot class. Class is a method, but it will not return one object, one web element, right? It will be returning multiple web elements. That we know. We know that, right? It is gonna return with by dot class, and when we pass this class name called sublist toggle, so it will return more than one web element. So in that case, so find element will always return one web element, right? So how do we resolve that? So in that case, if you know that whatever locator you are passing to your method is returning more than one web element, then in that case, we need to use a method called findElements. The locator will be same. Locator will identify the elements, right? But the output, you wanted to get it in the multiple, you know that it is gonna return multiple web elements. So in that case, we'll be using the method called findElements. It returns list of web elements. So we'll see that now. So let's say, for example, driver dot find element. If I do find element dot class name, it will return me only one class, first class. Maybe computers. It will return only computers hyperlink. But I wanted to actually have all this, links, right? So in that case, what we need to do, we can provide this class name. Just select it like this. Put it here, right? But this will match with multiple elements here. We saw that, right? So in that case, and if we are interested to have all those elements, right, in one go, then we need to use find elements method instead of this. This locator find element has no clue, or this method will have no clue how you are identifying it, right? So this we know, like with this class name. So class name is a method here. So you need to notice here, right? This is a class name locator. So class name, we need to use a method called class name in order to identify with the attribute class. And if you observe, this class is matching with more than one web element. All right. Now, as it is matching with more than one web element, as we know, this is gonna return more than one web element. We should not be using find element, because find element will return you one web element. But we wanted all the elements which are matching with this class name. So in that case, we'll use a method called find elements. So if you hover on this find elements method, you'll see it is returning list of web elements. So it will be list of web elements, right? So let's capture this list of web elements. Into some list. I'll just let's say list of items, and just import this list interface from java.util package. So with this, it will actually locate all the classes which are matching with this attribute value, and then all the elements are stored in this list. So this represents a list of web elements, as we have more than one web element matching here, right? So just to know how many are there, we can find the size. So how do we find the list size? We have seen this. We need to use the size method, which gives us the size of that list. That's it. It is done. So we just need to verify the console output. Yeah, it says 6, right? So there are 6 items which have the same class name. So both class name and tag name, class name and tag name, we will be using it when we wanted to identify, when we wanted to match or identify more than one web element. We'll be using class name and tag name. Now let's see about the tag name. An example on tag name. Say for example, I wanted to identify all the links here, all the links, whatever are the links here, right? So all these are the So this is the web page, right? So we do have multiple links here, hyperlinks. See, register, login, wish list, everything is a hyperlink here. So NOP commerce, this is a logo, but if you see everything else is a hyperlink here. So I wanted to identify how many hyperlinks are there on my web page, this web page. So in that case, how do you do that? So driver dot find elements. I'm using find elements this time because I wanted to identify all the hyperlinks. In that case, I'll do tag name. What's the tag name for any hyperlink? It will be anchor tag A, right? So A will be the hyperlink. A represents the hyperlink tag. So if you have a tag called A, it's a hyperlink. So we wanted to identify how many links are there, right? So for that, what we can use the logic here by dot tag name. Tag name is a method which will actually give you the count of, or which will identify the element by the tag name. But we know we are actually passing A here, anchor tag. So any hyperlink, it will have the script as, it will have the tag as anchor tag A, right? So what we are doing for that is by dot tag name of A. We are providing the tag name as A here, so that all the hyperlinks on the web page will be identified. And there will we know definitely there will be more than one link on the web page. There are more than one link. There is more than one link, right, on the web page. So we are using findElements method. And so we can actually capture this in a list of web elements. We can capture this into list of web elements. I'll just call this as total links. Total links dot size. So total links is a list of web elements holding all the hyperlinks, right? All the hyperlinks. Now we wanted to find how many such links are there on the web page. So we are just displaying the size of it. Yeah, yeah, you can see 8 is 6 is the last output. Sublist toggle class output, right? So we can even comment this out. So you can say 6, and this is, and if you observe, there are 87 such hyperlinks on the web page. So that is what the count here is, right? Now, if I wanted to have, say for example, I wanted to find the images. How many images I have on this web page? Again, driver dot find element of. So the tag for identifying the images is, so let's go here, inspect this. So I wanted this is a logo, NWP commerce is a logo, right? So if I highlight that, you can see a tag as img, right? So img represents image. So any image will have the tag as img, and I wanted to find how many images are present on my web page. So how do we do that? Driver dot find elements by dot tag name. What's the tag name for any image? img, right? So whatever are the tag names with img, I wanted that elements to be identified. So as there could be more than one element, we are using find elements, right? And then we'll capture that into a list as that will be returning list of web elements. I'll just call this as total images. Total images dot size. Yeah, it is done. Yeah, you can see there are 11 such images on the web page itself. So this is about the tag name and class name. So when do we use class name and tag name is when we wanted to find, when we know there is more than one element matching, then we can use the class name and tag name to find all those elements. And what's the method we use to find such elements? We use the findElements. If we think that there is a match of more than one element and we wanted to identify all those elements, then we use the findElements method. Simple. FindElement method returns one web element. FindElements method returns list of web elements matching more than one web element on the web page. And for that, we'll use the methods for class name and tag name in the by class. So these are all also present in the by class. So we use these locators to identify the web elements, right? So CSS Selector and XPath, these are like big topics. So we'll discuss in the next session. And now I'm gonna discuss one important interview question, right? So what's the difference between findElement and findElements, right? Both findElement and are used for locating the web elements, right? But we'll take different scenarios and we'll understand. Say, for example, case 1. Say my locator is matching. So both accept the locators, right? So my locator is matching with single web element. So in this case, findElement of locator. What will this return? Locator is matching with single web element, and we are passing findElement. We are calling findElement method, and we are passing the locator. So what it will return? It will return single web element as it is matching with single web element, right? It will return single web element, and so as it is a single web element, the return type will be web element. This we know, right? Now, what if it's a findElements? Locator is matching with single web element. Understand this, right? Locator is matching with single web element when we pass this locator, right? Now we are using findElements method. What it has to return? So it is returning still single web element only, right? It has to return what it has to return. So the return type of findElements is list. So it will always return list of web elements. But if you try to find the list size, it will be 1, right? It will be 1, but it will still return the list of web elements only, right? Now let's take case 2. It's simple, right? So locator is matching with single web element. So even though you use findElement or findElements, it will return only single web element. So in findElement case, it will be captured in web element object. But in findElements, this will return the return type of findElements itself is list of web elements. So it will return list of web elements only. But when you try to find the list size, you should be seeing 1. The size of this list will be 1, right? Now let's see the other case. Locator is matching with multiple web elements. So in this case, what happens? So I wanted to find I will be using findElement locator. So what it matches with? Locator is matching with multiple web elements, and I pass the locator and not using findElements. I'm using findElement, only one element, right? So what it will return? It will still return single web element only. We discussed this, right? It will return single web element only. The first one, whichever comes in that sequence, that will be picked up. So this locator, even though it matches, so I think we discussed this when we are discussing the partialLinkText, right? So if it is identified more than one element, and if you are trying to use it in the findElement, so it will not fail. It will just identify the first element. It will just locate the first element in the sequence, right? So this is still valid. Now, if I wanted to use the findElements, the locator is matching with multiple web elements. So in this case, what it will return? So the purpose of findElements itself is to find the more than one web element, multiple web elements, right? So in this case, what happens? Multiple web elements will be returned. And as it is returning multiple web elements, or the findElements itself returns the list of web elements, the return type of it. So it will return list of web elements. Now the interesting part. Locator is not matching with any element now. Locator is not matching with any web element. Now, I'm trying to use findElement locator. Locator is not matching with any web element, right? So is not matching. I know. So intentionally, I might be providing some locator, or accidentally, I might be providing some locator, but that is not present, or that is not same as what it is present on the web page, right? So in that case, when we use findElement, what happens? What it will return? It has to return web element, right? But the locator itself is incorrect. So in such case, what we get is we get an exception. We get an exception called no such element. The exception is called no such element because you are trying to find an element which doesn't even exist on the web page. So this findElement cannot locate that on the web page with the locator which you pass to it as a parameter. Then in that case, we'll get an exception called no such element exception. All right. Now answer this. findElements, right? So now I'll pass the locator to findElements. And locator is not matching. This locator is not matching with any web element. I'm using findElements. So if it matches with more than one element, we know it will return the list of web elements. Right now, it is not matching with any of the web element. So we are using findElements. So in this case, so we will not get any exception. No exception return. It will just return 0 or 0 elements. So it will still return the list, a list, but if you try to find the size of it, it will be 0. This we need to understand, right? So findElements, it will try to find if it is there, if it matches with one element, right? So in one case we have seen this, right, where I think here is matching with one single web element. In this case, the list size will be is equal to 1 here, right? So in the same way, if it doesn't find anything, right? So if it finds multiple web elements, it will provide the corresponding list size. How many web elements it is matching with, that list size will be displayed here. But here it is not matching with any web element. So in this case, it will not throw any error. We'll get the list, but the list size will be 0. So this you need to remember, right? So you'll be asked like, what's the difference between findElement and findElement? So you should not just say that findElement returns single web element and findElements return multiple web elements. You should also explain this like this in multiple cases how it works, right? Or at least this case. So this case last case has a huge difference, right? So at least this case has to be explained. So this is all about it. And in the next session, we'll discuss about CSS Selector. So it will take one complete session. So we'll discuss CSS Selector in the next session. So just to recap, so we started with understanding how a basic web page will be developed using scripting languages like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And we have seen like we understood the HTML tags, attributes, their values, right? And then we started with like Selenium locators. We have seen like how important it is to locate the web element before we perform any action, right? And we have seen different basic locators available in Selenium: name, ID, linkText, partialLinkText. We have seen an examples on that. and we have seen class name and tag name, and where this class name and tag name will be used. These locators will be used to identify the multiple web elements. And we have seen two methods, findElement and findElements. FindElement will be used to identify single web element, and findElements is a method which is used to identify the multiple web elements, which will be captured in a list. So which will return a list of web elements. And we have finally seen we have seen an example also on this, like, right? So how do we identify like the tag names, class names? We have taken an example and we have seen how can we actually capture all the web elements, multiple web elements, right? Using the class name and tag name locators. And finally, we understood the difference between findElement and findElements. Is that clear? Understood? Is that clear? Okay. For today, I'll just give you one assignment. So you can work on this assignment. Simple. Whatever we have done till now, the same example, right? So a different website. So just navigate to this URL and you have to find the total number of links present in this web page in that URL, right? And total number of images. And click on any available links using so if you will come to know linkText, right? So how will you identify it's a hyperlink? So the hyperlinks will have the tag as A, right? So just identify uh, the anchor tag and click on any available links. Click on one or more links using the linkText and partialLinkText locators. So that will be the assignment. You can work on it, and yeah, if you cannot do this, then we'll see that in the next session. Any questions on the topic which we discussed today? If you have any questions, you can put it on the chat, or else we can wrap up the session.